Hello everyone, it's Nexus again. And I told you last week I was going to tell you the most common car problem at where I work, and that is your car battery, or more specifically a dead car battery, or as we like to say in the business, a permanently discharged battery. No, we don't actually say that, it's a dead battery. Now, the most common cause of dead battery in Texas is just age, but that gets to be part of a little bit of a wonky problem, and what causes kind of the mix-up here is that age of a car battery is dependent upon where you live. Now, if you live in more milder climates, like the Midwest or, the Great Plains region, then your car battery can be expected to, even an okay car battery, can be expected to last 3 or 4 years. That is not the case in Texas. Texas has what we like to call the worst possible climate to have a battery ever. Texas has really, really hot summers. Now, the problem with hot summers to a battery is that it causes the water in the battery to slowly evaporate away, which, at first, doesn't appear to cause a problem to the battery. See, a battery works via chemical reaction. If you go to the links in the comments below, you'll see a link to the Engineer Guy's video on how a lead-acid battery works, and your car battery is a very large lead-acid battery. The one he shows in the video is a motorcycle battery, but the process is the same. Now, that lead oxide and lead plate reaction with the sulfuric acid to lead sulfate is temperature dependent, as are most chemical reactions, and the hotter the water in which the sulfuric ions are suspended, the faster that reaction takes place. And in Texas, where you can have up to 60 days at over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in consecutiveness, i.e. all of July and August, your car battery becomes super saturated. The water actually evaporates out so much that the acid is actually 3 or 4 times more potent, and the reaction occurs 3 or 4 times as fast. Now, the interesting thing about this is it doesn't actually make the acid any more voltaically active, as far as I can tell on the testers I've done, but it does make the batteries last a shorter amount of time. And that's just the way the reaction works, as far as I can tell. Now, the engineers who design these batteries know this, and it's why the warranties on the batteries seem kind of short to people from calmer temperature climes. The average warranty on our lowest grade battery is 1 year, which is just about enough for that grade battery. The mid-grade has 2 years, and the high grade has 8, 3 of which are free replacement. The other 2 earlier batteries used to have 5-year prorate periods after their free replacement periods as well, but the manufacturing company of those batteries, Johnson International, has been trying to get our company, which I shall not name in this video, but if you work at that company, you've probably already figured out what it is. They requested that we not do the prorate warranty anymore on those lower 2-tier batteries. Why they left the top tier with the prorate, I don't know. Probably because they believe that those batteries won't need it. I've seen those batteries last as long as 10 years, even in Texas climate, so they're good batteries. If you find out somebody gets their batteries made from Johnson International, go. Now, problem with the battery. Well, the problem is actually quite simple one. People don't know how to deal with a dead battery, and they don't actually know what is a dead battery and what is another problem on their starting system. So really the problem is the starting system in total that's the biggest problem. Here are the things you should look for. 1, does the car make a clicking noise when you turn the key? That clicking noise is the starter solenoid and or starter relay. Those are basically remote switches. When you turn your key in the ignition, that sends a signal to a switch on a much higher voltage current, so that your hand is not anywhere near a high voltage circuit, which could electrocute you. That sends power to your starter, which requires upwards of 100 amps of power in most cases, which would not be fun to have near your hand. And that click is actually the sound of the switch being thrown. Now, a solenoid or a relay is basically a electromagnetic coil lined up next to a switch that is either pulled closed or pulled open by the magnet, and they're spring-loaded, basically. Now, there are momentary on relays, which are normally in the off position, and there are momentary off relays, which are normally in the on position. In the case of the starter, they are momentary on, which is why when you pull the key back from the start position, the starter does not continue to spin, which would be bad for the starter. Now, if you hear that clicking noise, that means you have some charge left in your battery, and your battery is not completely dead. If you don't hear a clicking noise, it means one of two things. Either one, your battery is completely dead, in which case you need to replace it, and no amount of jump starting your car and running it with the alternator will ever recharge the battery, or two, your solenoid or relay is bad. And actually, hope that it's that. It's cheaper. Now, if you get your car jump-started immediately, that's a good sign. That means your starter isn't old. More importantly, it means you're probably in warm weather, and your battery was probably not that discharged. The thing to remember about a car battery is that it's measured in two ways. One is voltage, and every car battery is 12 volts. That means it has six 2-volt cells. Almost 1.5, that's not right. Six 2-volt cells in series, which create the 12-volt circuit. But it's also measured by amperage, which the engineer guide doesn't go over in really great detail. But amperage, to give an analogy, voltage is like the size of the pipe that water is flowing through, whereas amperage is the pressure of the water flowing through the pipe. It's the actual force behind the water moving. Higher the amperage, the more stuff your battery can run at a time on that 12-volt circuit, so long as you don't go over the maximum voltage, which gets into all of the different electromagnetic laws. The important thing to remember is that your starter requires a huge amount of amperage, and that as your battery's charge percentage drops, so does the amount of amperage it can put out. So the amperage rating on your battery is its amperage at 100%. So a 700 amp 12-volt car battery produces 700 amps when fully charged. The more you use the battery, the lower that number goes down. And as soon as that amount drops below the amperage required to turn the starter, which can be anywhere from 75 to 135 amps, depending upon the model of your car, the battery can no longer turn the starter over. That's why a lot of people, when they have cars that won't start, will notice that their lights will still work, because the lights require only a couple of amps, which the battery can still provide easily. It could be at 60 amps, which is not enough to turn the starter, but it's more than enough to power all the other electrical items on the car all at once, which you will notice does happen until you try to turn the starter over, in which case everything flickers off because the starter pulls all of the current off of the circuit. That's also why in old houses, when a washing machine or air conditioning unit turns on, the lights flicker. Now, if you jump your car and it starts immediately, and then you drive it for a while, and it dies. If your car dies while running, your problem is not with your battery. This is important. This is very important. I'm going to look right at the camera when I'm saying this. I'm going to try not to look at myself talking on the screen. If your car stalls while the engine is running, the problem is not with the battery. I want you to say it with me. The problem is not with the battery. It is with my alternator. The alternator, which is a generator, is what provides the electrical current when your car is running. It's connected to your car's engine. It's powered usually by an accessory belt, either a serpentine belt or a V-belt, depending upon the model of your engine. And its spinning rotation, just like a power plant's electric generator, produces electric current. If the alternator is bad, it draws current out of the battery while your car is running, which your car's battery is not designed for. You will only last a couple of hours, if that, on a car's battery. It's even worse if your battery was already low when your alternator gives out. If your alternator is out, replace the alternator. This is important because a bad alternator will actually ruin batteries. If your alternator is bad and you don't fix it, it doesn't matter how many times you replace your battery, you will still have to keep coming back for more. Okay, back to looking at the screen because I am done with that and I am done preaching. So that is the most common problem, electrical starting issues. Whoa, hit the earphone wire there and nearly pulled the iPad out of my hand. Hello, can you still hear me? All right, let's continue. Next week, we're going to go back in time to the job I had in between the fries that I mentioned in the last video and our current job scenario, to a little place called the theater, specifically the movie theater. And let's talk about movie ratings. And no, sir, you can't leave your child in the R-rated movie. This is Nexus, signing off.